The echo of polished shoes clacking against marble floors danced around the high-rise lobby of the Sterling Holdings building. Glass shimmered, the scent of espresso lingered, and above all, tension buzzed. Men and women in suits hustled through the atrium with urgency, clutching laptops and murmuring numbers. But amidst the whirlwind of wealth and power, one man moved slowly, humbly, his name tag read Ysef El-Amin. Janitor. Clad in a navy blue uniform that had faded at the seams, Ysef pushed a mop along the sparkling tiles, careful not to disturb the busy feet. Every so often, he'd glance at the towering glass elevator that led to the 48th floor, home to the executive boardroom of one of America's most powerful global investment firms. He had no business up there. He never even dreamt of it. But destiny often chooses the most unexpected messengers. At 43, Ysef had weathered more than his share of storms. A Syrian refugee who had once been a linguistics professor, he now scrubbed floors in the land of dreams to provide for his only daughter, Layla. His hands were calloused from years of labor, but his mind, oh, his mind, remained a library of languages, poetry, and wisdom. Each night, after Layla fell asleep, he'd read to her from books in Arabic and English, telling her, "Your mind is a palace, Habibti. Never let the world convince you it's a cage." But the world did try. 6 years ago, Ysef had lost his wife in a bombing in Aleppo. Cradling baby Layla in his arms, he fled with nothing but sorrow and resilience. The journey through refugee camps, immigration interviews, and language barriers eventually landed him in Boston, where cleaning offices paid just enough to keep the lights on and his daughter fed. He never complained. Dignity, he believed, was not tied to titles. One Monday morning, as sunlight poured through the glass ceiling, Ysef was assigned to clean the executive boardroom. It was an unusual task for him, he rarely worked on that floor. But 2 janitors had called out, and the board had scheduled a critical international meeting involving a potential $1.2 billion investment from an elite Saudi firm. Inside the boardroom, tension was high. The meeting had hit a wall. Sterling Holdings executives were seated stiffly, facing a video screen filled with stern-looking Saudi partners in Riyadh. Cultural missteps, translation blunders, and impersonal communication had drained the goodwill from the conversation. An interpreter fumbled through diplomatic phrases, losing nuance, tone, and respect in the process. "I believe we are not being taken seriously," said the Saudi delegate sharply in Arabic, unaware that anyone present could understand. The interpreter hesitated, then translated it as, "They are unsure of the financial structure." A quiet, offended murmur stirred in the room. Ysef, who had just entered with his mop and bucket, froze mid-step. He'd heard the original Arabic. His heart thudded. What was being lost in translation was not just language, but dignity. He looked up, hands shaking slightly. This wasn't his place. He was a janitor, not a diplomat. But the words his wife had once whispered came back to him, "Never stay silent when truth begs to speak." And so he did. Clearing his throat gently, he stepped forward and, in flawless, eloquent Arabic, said, "With your permission, gentlemen, I believe what you meant to express was concern about mutual respect and cultural sensitivity, not just finance." The entire room turned to him. Dead silence. The CEO, a hard-nosed man named Charles Winthrop, furrowed his brow. "Who are you?" Ysef swallowed, then straightened. "My name is Ysef El-Amin. I am a janitor here. And a former professor of linguistics from Aleppo. I taught Arabic and French literature for 20 years. The Saudi partners leaned forward in interest. One of them smiled faintly. "What else did they say?" asked the COO, curious now. Ysef gently set his mop aside, walked to the laptop, and with their hesitant permission, offered to translate. He didn't just repeat their words, he conveyed meaning. He translated with dignity, respect, and cultural awareness, acknowledging formal Arabic etiquette. He explained how certain phrasing could be misinterpreted, how body language mattered, and how vital it was to speak with heart, not just mouth. Within minutes, the boardroom transformed. The Saudis relaxed. Their tone warmed. A dialogue opened, rich with understanding and humor. What had started as a potential disaster turned into one of the most promising negotiations in the company's history. When the meeting ended, one of the Saudi partners, a royal cousin, said directly to Ysef, "You have honored our language and culture. You are the reason we are staying at the table." Ysef bowed humbly. "Language is the bridge between hearts. I simply laid a plank." After the call, Charles Winthrop stood frozen. Then he walked up to Ysef and said, "You saved this deal. No, you salvaged a relationship we've been building for 5 years. We owe you." Ysef shook his head. "You owe me nothing, sir. I was just doing what I know best." "No," Charles replied. "You reminded us what we've forgotten, that brilliance doesn't always wear a tie." The next morning, Ysef returned to work expecting everything to be the same. But when he arrived, his ID no longer granted access to the janitor's locker room. Confused, he asked security. "You've been reassigned," said the guard with a grin. "48th floor. Mr. Winthrop wants to see you." Nervously, Ysef took the executive elevator. When the doors opened, he was greeted not by mops or buckets, but by a polished desk, a nameplate that read Cultural and Linguistic Liaison, Ysef El Amin, and a standing ovation from the staff. Charles stepped out of his office and clapped him on the back. "We'd be fools not to have you represent us. You'll lead our Global Diversity and Translation Division. Benefits, salary, education for your daughter. Full scholarship." Tears welled in Ysef's eyes. "Are you sure? I'm just a janitor." "You were," Charles smiled. "Now, you're a bridge between worlds." That evening, Ysef walked home to Layla, who waited with her school backpack and hopeful eyes. "Baba," she said, "did something good happen?" He knelt down, held her tiny hands, and smiled. "Yes, Habibti. Today, they listened. And tomorrow, we build our future together." Layla beamed and hugged him tightly. And as the sun set over the city skyline, Ysef knew something had changed. Not just for him, but for anyone who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or silenced. He had spoken, softly, humbly, but the world had finally heard. Never let the world define your worth by the uniform you wear. Ysef's story reminds us that true value lies not in status, titles, or appearance, but in the depth of character, resilience of spirit, and the courage to speak truth when it matters most. In a world quick to judge by surface, we must learn to look deeper, to see the brilliance in the quiet janitor, the wisdom in the overlooked, the strength in the humble. Kindness, humility, and knowledge are never wasted. You may feel invisible today, but the light within you can illuminate rooms far beyond your reach, if you dare to let it shine. Yellow heart, so never be ashamed of your struggle. Yellow heart, never stay silent when you can build a bridge. Yellow heart, and never forget, your story has power, even if the world isn't listening yet.